Hi, I'm Nancy Chanteau, and this is the first video of the Thought Cleanse, and I'm going to teach a couple of different things today. The first is that we're working on stopping our thoughts, and we're stopping extra thoughts that are usually negative, that have some sort of extra layer of negativity, self-judgment, shame, something that is burdening the thought. That our principle and skills for change is that we don't need those thoughts, that we can function completely successfully without them, and that they take away life energy, they're life draining, and that a life affirming thought doesn't cause any problems. So you don't need to stop all your thoughts. You just need to stop these life draining, burdened thoughts. And that we're going to be making this distinction for how we stop our thoughts based on a felt sense. So we're looking for something in our body that we can check a thought against and notice whether or not our body has a response. So when I first did this, what I did was just check the thought to feel like I felt my body, and if it felt heavy in any way, if my shoulders felt slumped, or my chest collapsed, or my throat felt tight, my hands felt clammy, or my stomach felt upset in any way, if there was some feeling of contraction or tension in the thought, I would call that a heavy thought, and I would stop it. And so the first thing that you need to do in doing this practice is look for your felt sense. When you have a thought that is negative, what happens in your body? What are the sensations you feel in your body? What do you notice in your body? You don't really have to worry about light thoughts. Light thoughts probably don't have there's no burden on them, so there's no extra heaviness on them. So just focus right now on the heavy thoughts. And then I found it helpful to add a gesture. So my gesture for stopping a heavy thought was psst, 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 psst. So if the thought keeps going, I just keep psst, 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 until it stops. And I use this when in high school people were being rude to each other. They go tss, tss, to stop somebody from talking, or anyways, it was a kind of a mean way of telling somebody that they were full of shit or shouldn't talk. So I use that gesture. Other people have tried just a stop gesture, where they would put up their hand, or a sweeping away gesture. Any of those gestures are useful. You can even just do something like curl your toes, or blow out your cheeks, something like that. Anything like that. You want to look for something that is a physical gesture that you can pair with the action of stopping your thoughts, just to help you. And I really like doing one that has some humor in it, so that like in Harry Potter with the Bogart, when you're trying to get rid of that scary monster that becomes your worst fears, what you do is you make it a little funny. So like in those stories, you would dress up your worst fear in old lady's clothes, or clown costume, or something like that. The idea with the gesture is, if you can find something that makes you laugh, it will be a good bonus for that process. So step one, stop all of your heavy or extra thoughts. And we're not going to positive thoughts. We're just looking for stopping or going to a neutral place with the heavy thoughts. And then adding the gesture. So you're stopping thoughts with the gesture. And the next piece that we're working on right now is, as you're doing this, if it comes across, you can jot down what the thought is. So when I did this process, I did it from this very organic place. I didn't know what thoughts I was going to stop ahead of time. I would just, whatever a thought came around, I would check it. And if it was heavy, I would stop it. Well, it turned out a lot of my thoughts that I was stopping were things that were future planning, things I would have thought were relevant and necessary and helpful, but they had that extra baggage, that extra weight on them. And it turns out when I could dug under those thoughts and the categories of those thoughts, those future planning thoughts, that a thought like I should call Jennifer would be laden with this extra baggage of, I had better call her because I need to talk about the meeting we're going to have. If I say something in that meeting that she doesn't like, she might get angry with me. I need to make sure she's not angry with me, because if she's angry with me and the meeting doesn't go well, then I suck. And there was all that baggage of not of self-loathing that was attached to some relatively simple planning thought. And it turned out, when I got rid of all of that, then I didn't have thoughts for trying to protect myself in social settings in that way. I wasn't, if I needed to have a pre-conversation for a meeting, I would have a pre-conversation. But if I just trusted that if something went wrong, I could deal with it, then I would just deal with it rather than trying to preempt something from happening because I sucked. If I didn't have that, if I wasn't thinking in that way, I didn't need to do that preemptive work. So it really, we're looking to go into a neutral place, a non-thinking place, rather than trying to replace all of our extra thoughts with positive thoughts. A lot of people sometimes go in that direction where they just try and turn all their negative thoughts into positive thoughts. But what happens is you still have way too many thoughts. So we're really looking for a much more of a thought decluttering process. And then at some point we'll be doing more with the thoughts that we're having a harder time getting rid of. But we don't want to do that with every thought. It'll just be too overwhelming. So right now, you're going to be stopping your thoughts, adding the gesture, and then categorizing, just writing down the thoughts that you have, noticing what they are, writing them down. And then if you can think of what that category might be, you could write down, it's a worry, it's a future planning, it's a thought about a relationship. You could write down a category. Really, we're just going to make a list right now of what the actual thought is, the actual thought that had that weight on it. Just take notes whenever you notice. And when you get 20 or 30 written down, we'll do some categorization that will be interesting and useful with those thoughts. So that's it. That's what we're doing right now. Stopping your thoughts, adding the gesture, and if you notice your thought, you can write it down and start to categorize it. Okay, if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to hear them. And I look forward to our next phone call. Talk to you soon.